If there isn't anything more than just this earthly existence, then why bother? Why bother with being good? Why bother doing any of this stuff? And then people will try to say, well, because it gives you a good feeling. I go, really? You know what gives me a good feeling is sitting on my couch, watching television. What gives me a good feeling is spending my money on me. Those things, anybody there with me? I mean, I do the charitable work and I do all that stuff because I believe that Christ has given his life for me and I should give my life for others. And yes, on a spiritual plane, there is that satisfying feeling. But according to the dictates of my flesh, I want things to be all about me, myself, and I. And so if there is no eternity, if there is no God, if there is no moral order and something to hold together the purpose and meaning of the universe, then I have been wasting my time and I need to go home and just sit on my couch and do what I want. But yet at the end of the day, I believe that there's something more. Why do I believe that there's something more? The same reason you believe that there's something more. Because within us, we know that there's a gap because we're always seeking to fill the gap. You might not be able to call it a hole, but because you're always seeking something more to satisfy, that in and of itself indicates a deficiency. It indicates a gap. And so we are looking for meaning in our life. We are looking for worth. Now, let's look at this, what we're talking about in terms of meaning of life. I really think that there are three areas that we can look at for meaning. The first one is identity. We're all looking for a sense of identity. And when we talk about identity, we're talking about worth. Where does our self-worth come from? Who are we? Now, most of the time, we confuse identity with purpose. We confuse the fact that we say who we are is really tied into what we do. There are a number of people here today they aren't here today. Why? Because it's Mother's Day, and for some reason we have to take off on Mother's Day because we forget that God made them a mother, number one. And number two, they, before anything else, are a child of God. Before all other relationships, are a child of God. But we confuse the fact of that what our position is with who we are. What really defines who we are? And then aren't we all looking for a sense of purpose in our life? People, even the sluggard looks for a sense of purpose. The lazy person wants purpose thrusted upon them, but they still want some sort of purpose in their life. I have met some people, though, out there that seem to be wandering around without any purpose. And how short-lived life can be without having a purpose. But we need that purpose in terms of looking for meaning in life. And then the last one is we look for hope. And that is this idea of a future hope. A future, something that's coming together. We look for cosmic justice, God's justice. We look for things to come together and to be right there. Without these three elements, and without these three elements being in proportion to one another and effectively aligned with what God has to say about us, we will find ourselves constantly seeking out what is the meaning of life, what is the meaning of all of this. So let's look at this first one, the meaning of life in our identity. Now, identity is defined as the collective aspect of the set of characteristics by which a thing is definitively recognizable or known. Now, how would we describe my identity? Well, I would describe my identity as handsome, charming, stud muffin most of the time there. I mean, a people person except when you get on my nerves. Then I might describe my identity, well, I'm a good guy, because we all like to think we're a good guy. None of us can ever place ourselves in the role of villain in our life. We're either the hero or the victim, but very few of us can ever see that we ourselves are the villain. That's a whole nother sermon. I won't go there. So I might be the hero in my story here. But I'll look at all those things, and then maybe I might define myself by my educational credentials and the achievements that I've had in my life. But you know what the interesting thing about all that stuff is? That it really is, as Solomon says, meaningless. To define myself by those things are meaningless.
Here's a few reasons why people don't go to church.
I can't come to church until I get my life together.
Church is how I got my life together.
Church is filled with a bunch of hypocrites.
And there's always room for one more.
All they care about is your money.
They care about me, not about my money.
Is there some kind of dress code?
Yes, the code is wear some clothes.
Church, it just makes me nervous.
I was nervous at first, and then I felt right at home.
I'm not sure I believe everything that you believe.
But you can still belong.
Church is for wimpy, girly men.
You want to say that again?
If you knew me and what I've done, you wouldn't want me.
If you knew me and what I've done, you wouldn't be worried.
You can come to my church even if you were brought up Catholic,
Baptist,
Methodist,
Jewish,
Mormon,
Lutheran,
Pentecostal,
Presbyterian,
Church of Christ,
Southern Baptist.
a little bit of everything and a whole lot of nothing.
See, it's not about a religion, it's about a relationship.
So please, come to my church.
Where nobody's perfect.
Where beginners are welcome.
Where socks are optional.
but grace is required.
Where forgiveness is offered.
Where hope is alive.
And where it's okay to not be okay. Really.